Too many people assume that if you have excess fat, you are automatically metabolically unhealthy. But that's not true. Take a look at these diagrams. Which body habitus are you? A, B, or C? Many people are C when they are young, and then they become A or B with age. So what changed? Did you know that there is a metabolic difference between A and B? But just looking at these pictures, they don't tell you the whole story about your health, because you can be any of these body structures and still be metabolically unhealthy when you neglect the most vital organ for your health, your microbiome. Today, you will learn how your diet can shift your microbiome, which actually determines your weight and your metabolic health. And you'll also learn how to power your microbiome to get metabolically fit, to transform yourself back to as close as a C shape as possible. And you'll be surprised at the ways in which your microbiome is powered. I'm Dr. Lou, and I've been a practicing physician for 25 plus years. And as a young doctor, I literally started studying the gut microbiome under the grandfather of anaerobic bacteria, Dr. Sidney Feingold, who discovered a whole population of gut organisms called anaerobes that we didn't appreciate before. So when your gut is healthy, they're really the heart of our microbiome. And they have been elusive for decades until Dr. Feingold, such a visionary, believed that these organisms in poop are responsible for many human conditions and that the human diet has the power to change those organisms. If you've ever survived C. difficile colitis, then you've benefited from Dr. Feingold's research. So in the 1990s, he believed there was a gut-brain axis in which microbes actually could influence the development of the human brain. And he was in search of microbiome that could explain autism. Yes, this is how visionary that man was. Unfortunately, he passed at the age of 97 before he completed his research, but we now have tools to better identify our gut microbiome, and the research is exploding how we can optimize our gut microbiome in cancer chemotherapy, in our metabolic health, as well as our mental health. For a long time, we all thought our brain was in charge of our body, but it turns out that the master regulator is actually your gut microbiome, and they can increase or decrease your metabolic health. You're going to be surprised how the wrong poop can not only make you sick with diarrhea, but it can make you sad and grumpy and obese. So in order for you to understand why no two poops are alike, you actually need to understand a little bit of microbiology. And I'm going to make this as simple as possible. So in your poop, you have food pieces like this poop. This is moose poop. How do I know? Well, if you've ever been around an herbivore, you know what their poop looks like. Muddy with lots of grass, lots and lots of grass. By the way, I'm in Anchorage, Alaska. So whether it's 11 o'clock in the morning or at night, this is the amount of light. By the way, if you find values in my videos, could you please check if you're subscribed? When you like, comment, and subscribe, it actually helps my videos reach other people. And if you are subscribed, thank you very much for joining me to change the world. Okay, so the reason why I'm studying poop is because here in Alaska, you got to be aware of the wildlife around you. Apparently, moose are mean and can trample people, and bears are pretty aggressive too. And they say, if the bear is black, fight back. If it's brown, lie down. And if it's white, say goodnight. Meaning there's no way out if you come face to face with a polar bear. I don't think people realize how your poop smells is an indication of how healthy your gut is. So as I was flying up, the plane stunk like someone let out a toxic fart or they pooped in their pants. And that's a telltale sign of toxic anaerobic bacteria. The wrong runs can cause chronic inflammation, and now we know anaerobes like H. pylori and a variety of Clostridium species can cause many human diseases. The reason why these anaerobes have been so elusive in the gut because we had no idea that those organisms existed until Dr. Feingold proved it. He literally grew anaerobes like Peptostreptococcus, Phygodium fusobacterium, and Clostridium species because he figured out that they don't grow in oxygen. They can cause intense inflammation and even abscesses. And they're so difficult to grow because they only grow in conditions that lack oxygen. So as soon as you take the samples out your gut, literally your poop is exposed to oxygen, and that inhibits the bacteria from growing. But today we have sophisticated techniques that can help us more quickly identify anaerobes. We can test their genes. And we've discovered that your gut is made out of trillions and trillions of organisms. And here in Alaska, you can literally walk for miles without seeing people or housing tracts, unlike Southern California. Alaska is more than twice the size of Texas. It is the largest state in America, but the largest wilderness may not be outside of you, it's actually inside of you. Your gut is home to tens of trillions of organisms, about as many microbial cells as human cells. In other words, you're actually never walking alone. You're walking with an inner ecosystem. And your gut doesn't just carry germs, it is carrying genetic instructions, millions of them, helping decide what gets broken down, what gets absorbed, what inflames, what calms, and what signals may eventually reach the rest of your body and your brain. Therefore, your gut microbiome directly causes inflammation, directly regulates your metabolism and immunity. This field is advancing so fast now that if you are healthy, you can actually make several thousands of dollars donating your poop to give to someone who has unhealthy gut microbiome. And your poop may just save someone's life. And through this donation program, we've learned that the wrong microbiome in a person who appears healthy on paper can turn a skinny person obese. And hence, if you are obese, they won't accept your poop anymore. So what does a healthy poop look like? Well, this is bear poop. Look at it. There are pieces of seeds in it, and it smells like nothing. I can't smell the foul stench that nearly made me gag in the airplane. And I saw a lot of bear poop on our trip, and we would stop to inspect it, not only to make sure it was bear poop, but also to see what they were eating. Black and brown bears, despite being massively huge, they eat a lot of produce. And the reason why I'm bringing up bear poop is because their metabolism can teach us a lot about keeping ourselves metabolically healthy. During the summertime, bears are all trying to get super fat, and then they slim down in the winter. But did you know that they're not metabolically unhealthy even when they're getting super fat, unlike people? Now, for a bear, this poop is healthy. So what can we learn about their gut microbiome that can give us clues about how our microbiome can keep us metabolically healthy? Now, first of all, a bear's microbiome changes in the summer and winter. And that makes sense because they eat so differently than they do in these seasons. A bear eats a wide variety of natural foods from berries to roots and grasses, insects, fish, and meat. And whatever the land provides, that variety feeds their gut microbiome. But then during the winter, during hibernation, the bears may go for months without eating. Yet its microbiome doesn't simply die off. It actually just shifts. So studies in brown bears show that the gut microbiome changes between active season and hibernation. And those changes appear connected to energy metabolism. If you point your camera app to this QR code, it'll take you to a link for a free handout that I created just for you. For our people, our gut microbiome, it changes with our diet too. So your gut microbiome will respond to whatever you're eating, how often you feed it, how much variety it sees, and whether your body ever gets a break from that constant eating. And as humans, we used to eat seasonally like bears. A bear gains weight before winter, but its metabolism is built for that season. Modern humans, we've supermarketed out. We gain weight all year long under artificial light, eating the same ultra-processed foods with no winter, no rhythm, and no reset. And the bear's microbiome changes with nature. Ours get trapped from our deadly ultra-processed food environments. However, you can start restoring your gut microbiome with one ingredient. It's called fiber. But it's actually not a particular fiber. It is a variety of fiber packaging whole foods. Now, that may sound confusing because we expect packaging like plastic to be around the food. And that's because we've been trained to eat chemicalized, pretend foods that science has invented that have been destroying your gut microbiome. It's causing us to gain weight, to be chronically inflamed, and for us to stay in an A or B shape instead of shape C. And that's exactly what has been messing up our biology. But if we went back to ancient times where there wasn't plastic bag containers or wrappers around everything, and where people shopped for foods that were fresh, No, they shop at stands that look like farmers markets. And when was the last time you ate that kind of natural food? Germs, they can grow every 15 minutes. So literally, we have now the technology to identify many of these organisms that are abundant in poop. And these organisms only grow if they're fed. There are trillions of microbes, and some lay dormant until you feed it specific foods that it thrives on. So when you're fasting from unhealthy foods, you're dramatically shifting your microbiome, like bears, to get healthy. And keep in mind, bears, they don't eat through the winter. So some of their species will reduce, but they don't die off completely, because when they feed on their summer feasts, they come right back. Hence, the reason why people also need to take a break from their food and to eat diversity. So on this trip to Alaska, I didn't want my gut microbiome to suffer from the lack of diversity. And if you've ever been to the airport, you know that there's a lot of food choices that are very unhealthy. And I started in California, where fast food is king and white bread is abundant. And I'm not about to pay over $20 to eat white dough. I'd rather just bring my snacks. They're cheaper, they're healthier, and they keep my gut microbiome diverse to help me continue to reduce inflammation. So I packed my own food. That included arugula, baby greens, and I just ate that with seaweed. Believe it or not, I ate about a quart for lunch, and then I also ate some dinner on the plane. I had a bag of red grapes, and of course, I made my carrot cake bars that had beans and carrots and apples and raisins and oats and flax seeds and almonds and walnuts. So when I say diversity, I am serious about diversity. And for dinner, I just had some quinoa with white beans. And that's really just leftover from the carrot cake bars. And basically, you don't want any leftovers when you leave on vacation. I just added Korean seaweed to this, crumbled it up, and some of it got stuck together, but it was actually quite tasty. That day, I was able to eat half a gallon of green leaves, which would cost me way over $20, and I would have just gotten romaine lettuce in an appetizer size. Anyway, the reason why I try not to skip a day of my diet to be good to my gut microbiome is because I want them to help produce beneficial compounds to calm my mood and reduce blood inflammation, and to help me stay as close to C shape as possible, not A or B. You see, there was a time when I didn't do that, and I got really, really sick. First, I got shingles in my forehead. Right here, I looked like Mikhail Gorbachev. And this was in my 20s, in my late 20s, when I was a fellow training in medicine. And soon after that, I got a generalized whole body rash that was really bad. It was itching. It was like hives. And then I got appendicitis, and I almost died until they removed my appendix. And during that time, I got septic with one of those nasty gut microbes that was causing me intense inflammation. But my story isn't unique. That's the thing with inflammation. First, you gain weight. Then your body gives you clues on the outside of your skin when you have skin changes that can't be explained. And then things start breaking inside of your body. That starts with leaky gut. That can turn into sepsis or an infectious disease somewhere else. This is everyone's story when they die of an infectious disease or when they struggle with an infectious disease. They just don't realize it because they haven't put the story together. Why did I neglect my health, you ask? Well, between college, medical school, residency, and fellowship, that was 13 years of abuse of my body that nobody actually told me otherwise. And when you're young and naive, overworked and underpaid, and actually paying people to train you with student loans, you basically eat what's in front of you. And most of the time, that's not healthy. Between sleep deprivation, poor dietary choices, and vitamin deficiency, and I'm sure it was more than just vitamin D, my gut microbiome was messed up. But since that time, I've made a 180-degree turn, started to improve my gut microbiome, and my health has been better than ever. And turns out we all have that power to change our gut microbiome at any time. But the general principles of changing it to be healthy remains the same. Good guys prevent bad inflammation. And when you have more of them, there's less bad guys to increase bad inflammation, which results in less health problems. So what can you do today? Well, start adding nuts and seeds to your meals. A handful of unsalted nuts and seeds can fill you up, give you good, healthy polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fats, and on top of that, protein and fiber to feed your gut microbiome. you can add that to every meal. The second thing to do is to add fruits to open up your palate before you even start eating. That's right. Don't eat any food until you eat some fruit first. Now, most people save fruit for last, but it's actually more beneficial to eat fruit first to turn yourself from an A or B shape into more of a C shape. Eat at least 1 cup of fresh fruit before you eat any meals or snacks, and then add a cup of vegetables with every meal too. And at this point, since you're just starting, it doesn't really matter what vegetables or fruits that you eat, as long as you're not drowned in oil and fats and sugar, and that it's not a fatty fruit. Now, the way I did it was to mix my vegetables with my main meals just to make sure that I could eat it and not drown it in oil. Start with your favorite crunchy vegetables and fruits. And remember, even for breakfast. And if your breakfast is super sweet, you may be struggling with this task in the beginning. But if you start training your palate to eat vegetables, you're actually going to eat less junky breakfast food to help you get to a C shape even faster. And this is literally how I started to train my palate. I just ate produce like bears. But of course, there are vegetables and fruits that are more powerful than others to reduce inflammation and promote your healthy gut microbiome and to increase your metabolism even better. And if you want to learn more about that, watch the next video.